We grow up hearing that George Washington was the father of American freedom. But here's the question nobody asks. If freedom was the foundation of this nation, why did America's first president spend years hunting down one black woman who claimed it for herself? Her name was Ona Judge. And her story exposes a truth America still struggles to confront. Sometimes the people celebrated as defenders of liberty become the very people standing in its way. George Washington talked about freedom. He fought a revolution over it. He became the symbol of it. Yet while speaking the language of liberty, he enslaved hundreds of African people and used the power of the presidency to keep them in bondage. That's not an attack. That's history. And history becomes dangerous when we only tell the comfortable parts. Ona Judge wasn't a general. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't elected. She wasn't protected by the Constitution. She was an enslaved teenager forced to serve in the household of the most powerful family in America. She dressed Martha Washington, prepared her baths, mended her clothes. She literally slept outside the Washington's bedroom, always on call. To the nation, George Washington was the president. To Ona Judge, he was the man who owned her. When Martha Washington decided to give Ona away as a wedding gift to her granddaughter, Ona understood something many oppressed people eventually learn. Loyalty doesn't protect you in systems built on ownership. No amount of service could guarantee her humanity. She could be traded, separated from family, placed in danger, sold into uncertainty at any moment. Pennsylvania had laws that allowed enslaved people to gain freedom after residency requirements were met. Washington knew it. Instead of honoring those laws, he rotated enslaved people in and out of the state every 6 months to prevent them from qualifying. Think about that. The first president of the United States used technicalities to avoid extending freedom while publicly representing a nation founded on liberty. The contradiction wasn't accidental. It was structural. Here's the part of the story that matters just as much. Ona didn't escape alone. Free black communities helped. People risked imprisonment to hide her belongings. Leaders like Richard Allen were building networks of resistance long before the Underground Railroad became formalized. Black America wasn't waiting to be rescued. It was organizing, protecting, teaching, building, fighting, even under impossible conditions. When Washington's agents found her years later, they promised she would be treated well if she returned. Ona's response? I am free now and choose to remain so. Read that again. The most powerful man in America wanted her back, and a black woman with no legal standing looked at the machinery of power and said, no. We often ask whether George Washington was a good man or a bad man. That may be the wrong question. The better question is, what do we do with heroes who preached ideals they weren't willing to extend to everyone? Because America has always been shaped by two competing forces: the promise of freedom and the struggle over who gets to claim it. Even now, there are efforts to soften these stories, to remove exhibits, to make history less uncomfortable. But discomfort isn't the enemy, amnesia is. Because when we erase the people who challenge power, we lose the blueprint for how ordinary people create change. George Washington helped build a nation, but Ona Judge helped define its unfinished promise. She reminds us that freedom has rarely been handed down from the powerful. It has been demanded by those courageous enough to insist they were human long before the law agreed. Cipher with Malik. Decoding culture, history, and truth. And remember, real power isn't just found in those who rule. Sometimes it's found in the people who refuse to surrender who they are. Peace.